So I'm putting the squid back into Watchmen, the 2009 Zack Snyder movie. And obviously that movie was, let's say, controversial, especially at the time. I don't think it's, gotten any less controversial now. And I think one of the biggest changes people saw from the graphic novel to the movie was the ending.
It's not the Soviets, sir.
And I'll kind of leave it ambiguous at that for anybody who may not have watched the movie at this point or read the comic series. What I'll say is I enjoyed the movie at the time. It certainly is stylistic. And I thought for the most part, the casting seemed really great. I think the biggest thing I loved about the movie, and I know this is something Zack Snyder has spoken to, is it got me to read the graphic novel.
I'm not a comic book villain.
But obviously, in the near 15 years since the movie came out, some things have changed. And one of the biggest ones is that HBO released a sort of sequel remix series, but there was a scene in that that shows what should have been, the ending of the movie if it stayed true to the comic. And because I'd done a fan edit already using pieces of the HBO show, somebody encouraged me to kind of take this on. I didn't use the footage, in question to kind of fill in that ending piece, and so yeah, so it was easy for me to grab that footage and start seeing what I could make with it.
You're a filthy dumb sinner, and now you get what you deserve.
Sounds easy, like great, just grab a piece of footage, throw it in, new ending, you're good. And you could do that, but it really is going to feel very out of place for anybody who knows the real ending. I don't want to say it comes out of nowhere, but it is a whole loop. So instead, I really got ambitious here, and I've never done this before. I actually decided to play around with voice cloning, with sort of that new technology, and very disturbingly successful. The biggest piece was being able to clone Adrian Veidt, Ozymandias's voice, because he would have the most sort of monologue surrounding the ending. And sort of luckily, Matthew Good's performance is very sort of even keel, calm, confident throughout the movie. And so I had a lot of great voice samples to work with. And cloning the voice turned out to be surprisingly easy. I had to do, kind of multiple versions just to get close enough to what I was looking for. You don't have a lot of control of sort of like emotion or speed or things like that, but you can kind of just keep generating new takes on different dialogue, and then eventually maybe get something that's close to what you're looking for. And so I ended up getting, 2 to 3 minutes to put back into the movie to sort of, set up this ending. And then also managed to generate a pretty crucial line from Dr. Manhattan that was sort of given to Laurie at the end of the movie. There was another little controversy with things.
I did the right thing, didn't I, John? It all worked out in the end.
In the end, nothing ends, Adrian. Nothing ever ends.
All in all, success on those fronts. And then just because I was doing this work on the movie, I decided to just kind of go in and really do some changes that I felt were going to be beneficial. And my goal was not to make it into the comic series, separate out into 12, short pieces that sort of add up into a larger, no longer movie. I don't even know what you'd call that, miniseries. Instead, I just try to make it feel more in line with the comics, but still very much be a movie and still very much be a Zack Snyder movie. And so those changes really just like toning down, characters who are not Dr. Manhattan or Ozymandias. It's still a violent movie. There are still action sequences, but really just kind of cutting out some of those pieces where like a character punches into a brick wall and stuff. Like, these are real people. They're just supposed to be very, trained, ambitious, best of humanity, the kind of people who go out there and do this kind of crime fighting. Best of some of them are terrible people, but just really removing just some of those moments. And then I think the biggest thing was cutting back in what's called Under the Hood. And, in the comics, it was basically excerpts from this book that Hollis Mason, the original Night Owl, had written. And in mine, and what it is for the special features, there's this special feature called Under the Hood, which is basically almost a 60-minute style interview piece, with Hollis Mason and other sort of masked adventurers from sort of the early time period.
It's been nearly a decade since the best-selling autobiography Under the Hood revealed secrets of the original band of masked adventurers, the New Minutemen.
And basically, I just set it up as playing in the opening scene, and then cuts in, throughout, sort of mostly in the early and middle, and then, sort of at the end as well, just sort of give a little cap note on it. And I think it adds so much just of this sort of world and history. And the pacing gets changed. And I don't even want to say ruined. I feel like it becomes, it feels this world that you're learning about, and these people that you're learning about. And it does become much less of a, 3 hour plus action epic or something. And it comes much more of this sort of intrigue of like being brought into the history of this place and how we got to where the movie ends up.
This has been a nostalgic look back at a colorful time in this nation's past.
And sort of the last pieces, we're just adding a few bits of music in there, and I go into whole detail. There'll be a link below where you can sort of find some info about the choices I made. But biggest thing is like the infamous sex scene is completely, new music for that, trimmed down, and I think it like really works. It's a band that Laurie references in the graphic novel, playing a song that Dan would have grown up with, and I think it adds this layer to the storytelling, especially for that scene with them, and just a little bit of goofiness. So you want to check that out. I also changed one of the end credit songs. I didn't really have a problem with it, but I know some people didn't like that it was, it was a cover of Bob Dylan, but by My Chemical Romance. So I replaced it with another graphic novel song that was referenced in an earlier part of the comic. So, and then otherwise, either grabbed songs that were from the graphic novel or songs that were, period and sort of thematically appropriate. So again, you can kind of check that out. But with creating some of that dialogue, needed music for it. And then luckily I had some footage to use from the HBO series that would sort of layer over some of those dialogue pieces, because not quite at the point where you can get the character to do the speaking. You can't quite create a whole new scene, but you can do dialogue for it. So anyway, super excited to share this. I hope people enjoy it. Obviously, leave some feedback. If you loved it, if there's, things that you want to see more changes, or if this really kind of got you viewing it in a new way. And yeah, hopefully people subscribe and stick around for future fan edits and whatever shenanigans we get up to on this channel. So thanks for watching.